Hey guys, it's Mr. Wolfie, and today I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite personal dishes that I make frequently, and it's called a Cowboy Casserole. Now you start with ground beef, and in this case I got 73% lean, 27% fat. Leaner ground beef is a little better because we don't want it to be kind of greasy. We want it to be, the seasonings to be most of the flavors. So I used pretty inexpensive ingredients, as you can see here, rotel tomatoes and peppers, whole kernel corn, standard spices, and for the cornbread that is the layer on top, I use Mexican cornbread to give it a little bit of a spicy taste, and also you need milk and eggs to do that. So now everything that you see here, other than a couple of small items that I need later as far as mixing spoons and the like, that shows everything that you're going to need to prepare this dish. So start by taking the hamburger meat, and I use a little more than a pound. I kind of had to roughly estimate because we just had this huge pack of hamburger meat because it was on sale. But it's about a pound and a half tops of ground beef. And this item I have here is a container that is you can microwave the hamburger meat to kind of pre-cook it, and also drain some of the fat off. So now, I am not one of the kind of people that likes to drain all the fat off because that gets rid of all the flavor. So by putting it in the microwave and cooking it for just a few minutes, you are able to brown the hamburger meat, but we don't want to completely cook it just yet. Oh, by the way, you have to wash your hands in between all this. Do not touch random surfaces with meat grease on your hands. It's disgusting. I don't actually show that for some reason. But preheating the oven to about 375. Now in the bowl I have mixed the cornbread mix, one single egg, whole egg, you do not want to remove the yolk in the case of making cornbread, and 1 cup of milk. Then after I combine these ingredients, I immediately begin mixing it until it's a well mixed paste of sorts. Now this part's kind of important. I'm draining the grease, or some of the grease, off of the hamburger meat that we had cooked in the microwave. Now this lowers the fat content of the food, but also you gotta be careful not to get rid of too much of the fat from the meat, or it becomes a tasteless mess that you don't even want to eat. So, you know, get a leaner meat and just drain a little bit of the visible fat off, but don't drain all of the juices because you don't want it to be tasteless. And you also don't want to completely remove the fat because that's part of their energy intake. I mean, if you're talking about providing something that provides you the energy you need to get through the day, you don't want to just completely eradicate all calories like that. So, and also you don't want just protein unless that's your thing, but it's not advisable. So I kind of break up the hamburger meat a little bit, and I begin adding some of the ingredients. Now the first ingredient you want to add is the chili seasoning. And notice that the meat is not all browned yet, but it will be by the time we get done with this. This is just a pre-mix kind of thing, and then we're going to prepare it or cook it in the microwave some more, and then we're going to put it in the oven, as you will see shortly. Now when it comes to the beans, I like to drain that extra layer out of the can, that moisture, because if you don't drain your beans, sometimes they can cause some intestinal distress for more sensitive people. So just a couple of rinses. We're not really wanting that extra sodium in this anyway, so it's a good way to get rid of some extra sodium. And it doesn't really influence the flavor in any negative way. So just, you know, rinse your beans every now and again. Now we're going to add all the canned ingredients to the meat. We've already added this seasoning from the taco, or the chili seasoning. We're going to add the beans. We're going to add the corn, but we're going to save the rotel to line the bottom of the pan when it goes into the oven. And I'll show you that in a moment. So carefully mix all the ingredients. Not really necessarily carefully, but just thoroughly mix them so there's an even distribution of meat and vegetables in the container. Now take the rotel, or just the peppers and tomatoes, and line the bottom of the pan that will go into the oven later. Now we're going to add the meat, the corn, and the beans. Now, thoroughly mixing the components is important here because you don't want to get a whole bite of nothing but the tomatoes or nothing but the meat. You want it to be a good bite of everything in every section of the casserole that you cut and eat and serve. So the whole goal here is to have a wide variety of food types. You know, you've got starchy vegetables, you've got actual vegetables, you've got meats. When we get done with the cornbread, we'll have a bread on top. You have a very self-contained full meal in one go here, which is kind of the point of a casserole to begin with. Once all the components are properly mixed, you tamp down everything to make it sort of a flat surface because we're going to pour the cornbread right on top as a surface layer, almost as a breading on top of any other casserole you would see. So you kind of evenly distribute the cornbread as much as you can, you know, in its current form, and get every little bit that you can out of the mixing bowl to cover as much surface area as possible. Now that the cornbread is evenly distributed over the mixture, the casserole itself is prepared, but it needs to be cooked so that the cornbread can cook and so that any of the meat and vegetable components can continue to be cooked to where they're a safe, thoroughly prepared temperature. Place the casserole in the oven, which by now should be heated to the proper temperature, and leave it in there for about 15 to 20 minutes, and just make sure that, depending on your oven, every oven's going to be different, make sure that it doesn't burn on the surface. You don't want to scorch the cornbread and then have undercooked meat. You want it to be cooked evenly and properly. After about 20 minutes, check the casserole. If the cornbread looks like it's done, then the whole mixture should be properly cooked. Notice that it's boiling a little bit still because it's got that much heat coming off of it. But after it cools for a few minutes, you can cut it into however many squares you want to serve. Each individual serving is a good source of numerous foods from different food groups, and boom, it didn't cost very much to make. Well, if you enjoyed that, please come back and we'll show you another next time. Peace out, guys. This has been Mr. Wolfie. Love you.